Happy Friday, everyone. It is the second to last Friday of November. Thanksgiving is next week. And even though it's almost meteorological winter, it certainly doesn't feel like it because once again today we were in the 70s. We have a lot of stuff to talk about today, but first things first, I want to talk about the crazy day that we have had here in the Carolinas, here in the Charlotte area specifically. So it's been cloudy. And we've had areas of light rain. We had this last night. We had it early this morning, especially for the mountains and foothills. Now, I talked to some folks earlier when I was at my workout class, a lot of people who love WCNC and watch, and they were like, where the heck's the rain? And I said, well, we did see some rain because I actually had some on my car when I left work last night. And they were like, well, I guess it must have just skipped my house. And that's not necessarily the case. It's just the fact that we weren't expecting a lot of rain in general. So areas of light rain, it's very easy, right, for someone to see it and someone to not. Now, today, again, we've seen some clouds, the drizzle lingering this afternoon, but also that dense cloud cover we've had and temperatures warming with heights instead of cooling as they normally do has allowed for a temperature inversion. And if you guys remember when we normally talk about temperature inversions, it's usually in the form of, the sound gets trapped when we have thunderstorms. So if the boom feels a lot louder. Or a temperature inversion during 4th of July. So when you set off fireworks, the smoke lingers, closer to the ground. But in this case, it is allowed for dust, ozone, which is there pretty much all the time. And on top of that, smoke particles from controlled burns and wildfires that we've had earlier this week. Of course, we had some in the mountains and foothills, especially in Avery County earlier this week. So all of those particles, or particle pollutants, as they're called by the National Department for Environmental Quality, that has all been trapped near the ground. So with that being said, we're under an air quality alert from now through midnight. I would anticipate this could be extended just into Saturday morning since we're still going to see kind of that wedge setup. But either way, code orange air quality alert is unhealthy for sensitive groups. So if you are elderly, if you have kids at home, or if you are someone who suffers from respiratory illnesses such as asthma, this would be a good time to limit your time outdoors. Maybe we're not going to play, a flag football game or anything that's extra strenuous out there this evening. And maybe you don't anyway, because we do have another chance of rain, as I just talked about. These are kind of the two things that I'm looking at right now. So we have all of this rain that's mostly just light rain, right, coming in from Tennessee and Kentucky. But we also have this moisture and this energy coming in from the south, or coming in from the southwest. I don't necessarily think this big ball of energy down here in Georgia is going to impact us, but I certainly think there's a possibility that we get clipped from some of this energy in Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia right now for areas south in parts of the Sandhills. And then again, our light rain coming in from the west in Kentucky and Tennessee kind of clips those northern areas. And the reason why I think this is important is because Futurecast has pretty consistently shown two distinct areas of light rain. And unfortunately, it doesn't look like that's going to impact the Charlotte area a lot. So here we go toward tomorrow morning. This is Saturday around 3 a.m. Notice pockets of heavy rain, even a few downpours possible in places like Greenville, Spartanburg, York County, Chester, Lancaster, Union, Anson, or even down toward Chesterfield and Richmond County. Now, as we get closer to the mid-morning, here's that cloud cover. Notice it's pretty thick, pretty dense. The whiter this shows up in our system, that means the thicker the cloud cover is. So you see a few little spurts there, little spots of green, but for the most part, it's that cloudy, foggy, kind of drizzly. Here's the afternoon, right? You can see sunshine returns. This is what's going to help floor us into the upper 70s. So it's one of the reasons why we're going to be so warm. But notice, as we kind of clear out the dense clouds and the drizzle, then we start to see those little tiny pop-up thunderstorms. So most likely to see areas of light rain or drizzle is tonight into early tomorrow morning. But if you are in the Charlotte area and south, you're more likely to see some of those isolated pop-up thunderstorms between 2 and 4, and then a little bit later for areas south of us. You notice 6 o'clock, there's still a few isolated thunderstorms in places like Wadesboro, Rockingham. Clear and quiet, though, as we get closer to Sunday. Not a lot of rainfall accumulation. In fact, these numbers are even lower than what I showed you yesterday. Yesterday, it was kind of widespread, 1/10 of an inch to a quarter, but now we're seeing data agree with the model I just showed you, which is those two distinct areas. So maybe close to a quarter in the mountains, maybe a quarter to a half there in those southern parts of the Piedmont. But here in Charlotte, I think we'll be lucky if we accumulate anything, honestly. So 20% chance of rain, just to accommodate the fact that some areas see it and some don't tomorrow. And of course, if you do see it, again, it's especially south of the Charlotte area. A record high is actually likely tomorrow. I know we talked about this a lot Wednesday, Thursday, but 78 is the forecast high. The record is 76 from 2011. Now, we've seen a lot of upper 70s this week, but November 22nd tomorrow is kind of an anomaly. Most of our records are 78, 79 or higher. But again, with Saturday only being 76, I think it'll be very, very easy to break that record. Sunday is a little bit cooler, a little bit drier, but we're still well above average. But we know that the above average trend is going to eventually break just after Thanksgiving. Cooler air mixes in for those last few days of November, first day of December. But just as quickly as that happens, we're soaring back into the above average temperatures. So I know Tim and I have talked a lot about social media hype this week on live weather impact, but this is kind of why you don't get saucy, no pun intended, since I just showed you the Thanksgiving forecast, but this is why we don't get too saucy, too stressed, whatever you want to call it, when a long-range forecast is showing, oh my gosh, substantial cool down, crazy, and why we try not to dramatize those forecasts, because they can change very, very quickly. So anything past 7 days it's not, I wouldn't necessarily say it's a crapshoot, but it's definitely 50-50, if not lower, because I know we talked about this a little bit again yesterday, but model data tends to trend toward the climatological average once you get past 7 days. Okay, so Thanksgiving trends in Charlotte, not much change from what I showed you yesterday. We're looking consistently dry, temperatures consistently where they should be. So here's the 7-day forecast for Jerry Hunt Supercenter. Again, you can see lots of warmth. Notice Sunday, 71. That's after a cool down. Our high average is 61. So again, it's still 10 degrees above average. Sunday, Monday, pick a day. Either of those could be my pick of the week. Sunday's a little bit warmer. Monday's a little bit sunnier. And then by Thanksgiving, we're down to 59, which is the average high temperature for November 27th. So not cooler than average, not warmer than average, exactly where we should be. Like Goldilocks says, it's just right.